You're heading to your local grocery store one day, and you're walking at the same time as a lady who just parked a top-of-the-range BMW, well-dressed and carrying one of those luxury designer handbags. She's a few steps ahead of you down the aisle, and in a moment of indiscretion, you can't help glancing at her trolley, and it's full of own-brand products, special offers and promotions. Coming the other way down the same aisle, a young man who looks like a student, and his trolley is half empty. A punnet of organic strawberries and a single fair trade avocado. What on earth is going on here? Have consumers lost their minds? No. What you are just witnessing is the everyday expression of one of the most profound shifts in consumer behavior of the last few decades, the bipolarity of markets. It's a phenomenon that is radically rewriting the rules of the game in the world of mass consumption. And today we're going to explore it from the trenches of the fresh produce world. I'm David Del Pino and this is Fresconomics. Welcome to the fresh produce business, a world where uncertainty is the only constant and volatility shapes every decision. Every day, remarkable people navigate this chaos with skill and courage. Join me as we explore the hidden logic of this industry to decode what others call unpredictable. For decades, economists and marketing professionals taught us to picture consumption as a pyramid. At the base, basic products for the lowest incomes. In the center, broad and dominant, the territory of the middle class. Standard quality products at reasonable prices for the majority. And at the tip, luxury reserved for the few. That image worked for entire generations. The business strategy was clear: conquer the center, dominate the mass market. The great food corporations built empires on that very premise. Everybody wanted to be the supplier to the middle class. But something changed, and it changed so profoundly that the old pyramid no longer describes reality. In 2003, Michael Silverstein and Neil Fisk published an article in the Harvard Business Review titled "Luxury for the Masses." Their observation was apparently simple but revolutionary. Middle-class consumers were ceasing to behave like middle class. They no longer bought mid-range products across every category. Instead, they did something far more sophisticated. They bought premium products in the categories that they mattered to them emotionally, and the cheapest possible basics in everything else. The pyramid was turning into a shape we can picture as, an hourglass. Though it's a rather special hourglass. If the sand is the consumers, they've been flowing in both directions at once. And the narrow neck that remains, that ever thinner waist, represents what Silverstein and Fisk called the death of the middle. In physics and in economics, there is a concept called equilibrium states. A system tends to move towards stable configurations. Well, the consumer market seems to have found a new equilibrium, but not the one we were expecting. The extremes have become the new attractors of the system. Two extremes, luxury and basic, that pulls consumers towards themselves and hollow out the center. Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel laureate in economics, taught us that human beings are not rational calculators. We don't necessarily make decisions through rational mental process. Very often we decide via mental shortcuts, what he called heuristics. And Richard Thaler, another Nobel laureate, and also a father of behavioral economics, introduced the concept of mental accounting. We don't treat all the money the same way. We file it into different compartments according to where it comes from and where it's going. This mental accounting is key to understanding the bipolarity. A consumer can keep one mental account for basic groceries where the goal is to minimize spending, and another mental account for healthy little treats where they will be willing to pay a significant premium. There is no internal contradiction. There are two different decision systems running in parallel. This is what some marketing gurus have called the Jekyll and Mr. Hyde consumer, and it captures our two characters from the opening scene rather well. We also have to factor in the concept of loss aversion, another one of Kahneman's teachings. According to Kahneman, we have a distorted perception of the utility of things. We feel worse about losing something that we feel good about gaining the very same thing. The athlete who reaches the final match of a competition and loses is usually more miserable than the one who came third and won the consolation match. Applied to our context, the consumer feels they are losing if they overpay for a basic product they perceive as a commodity, but feels they are winning when they pay for a premium product that gives them emotional satisfaction. I don't want to get too highbrow about it, but back at the end of the 19th century, the economist and sociologist Thorstein Veblen published the theory of the leisure class, where he coined the term conspicuous consumption. Veblen observed that the upper classes bought expensive products not only for their usefulness, but to signal their social status. What's fascinating is that Veblen was writing about an era when only the rich could afford to behave this way. Today, thanks to what Silverstein and Fisk call mastige, a contraction of mass and prestige, aspirational consumption has been democratized. Anyone can afford small luxuries in some categories. But here comes the twist. In the 21st century, conspicuous consumption has mutated. It's no longer just about displaying wealth. It's about displaying values, knowledge, belonging to a tribe. Buying local or buying organic strawberries isn't just nutrition. It's a declaration of identity. It's telling the world, I am someone who cares about the environment, about my health, about local growers. If you like an updated take on this, I'll point you to my chapter 9 of my book Fresconomics for a look at how the hierarchy and values around food have evolved in developed societies. And I have to bring Pareto to the table, because in the end, in everything in life, Pareto turns up sooner or later. Yes, that gentleman who formulated the Pareto principle, the famous 80-20 rule. That one that tells us that 80% of the results come from 20% of the causes. Wilfredo Pareto formulated after observing that 80% of the land in Italy belonged to 20% of the population. In marketing, we traditionally applied Pareto to identify the 20% of customers who generate 20% of our sales. But in a bipolar market, Pareto takes on a different shade of meaning. It's not that 20% of customers generate 80% of sales. It's that the same customer behaves completely different depending on the category. It's as though Pareto had become individualized. Each consumer has their own personal 80-20. 20% of categories where they will be willing to pay a premium, and an 80% where they'll hunt for the lowest price. And here's the most challenging part for us. Those proportions and those categories aren't just different for every person. They are also dynamic. What matters to me today, well, maybe won't matter tomorrow. In the book Fresconomics, I give particular attention to the two-factor theory of Friedrich Heckscher, originally developed to understand motivation in the workplace. Heckscher distinguished between hygiene factors, whose absence generates dissatisfaction, and motivator factors, whose presence generates satisfaction. And it is something that applies perfectly to bipolar consumption. Basic products work like hygiene factors. If they are unavailable or priced too high, they generate dissatisfaction, but their presence at a good price doesn't generate any enthusiasm. Premium products, by contrast, operate in the realm of motivator factors. Their presence generates positive satisfaction and emotional connection. Their absence doesn't cause as much dissatisfactions as the absence of basics, but their presence delivers something the basics never could. Well, meaning, transcendence, a sense of significance, call it what you will. And so we reach to the heart of the matter for those of us who work with fruits and vegetables. What does all this mean for us? First, let's look at a few paradoxical figures. Take the organic category, for example. Organic fruit and vegetables already account for, let's say 12% of total fresh produce sales in certain developed markets. And at the same time, in those very same markets, the discounters and their own brand labels keep growing relentlessly in the basic segment. The bipolarity is visible right there on the shelves. Even generalist retailers are gradually abandoning the three-tier pricing model, that one with basic, standard, and premium tiers, in favor of a two-tier one, either very cheap or clearly differentiated. For growers, this poses a fundamental strategic dilemma. Either you compete on cost, optimizing every last cent of your production to be the cheapest, or you find the attributes consumers will value and pay more for. And that's easier said than done, right? The extended value attributes come into now. A good product isn't enough. You have to build a value proposition that connects with the consumer's deeper motivations. Think of some of the trends shaping the food consumption business currently. Health and well-being, organic, pesticide-free, high nutritional content. On the other hand, we have sustainability, environmentally conscious, fair trade, biodiversity, but we also have convenience, ready-to-eat products, single portion, ready to cook, and of course we have authenticity and emotional connection on local products, seasonal products, heritage varieties, knowing the history of the grower, the story behind the product. Each of these attributes could justify a premium price, of course, if it's communicated properly, if the consumer belongs to the segment that values it, and if we get the combination of the attributes right. And the term prestige that Silverstein and Fisk coined in that Harvard study, I mentioned it earlier, is the one that paradoxically breaks what looked like an iron law. And that iron law is that luxury has to be a niche affair. These authors note that there is an opportunity in mass consumption to sell on a massive scale while trading on an appeal of prestige. Hence, their coinage, prestige, from the contraction of mass and prestige. In short, what they said, it was luxury for the masses. It's easy to spot that in the automobile industry. The big luxury car brands like Mercedes or BMW have for some time now been selling everyday cars at a premium price that a large proportion of the middle class can actually afford. The answer lies in the subjectivity of value, of course. And here I have to say that I'm rather in agreement with the neoclassical economist. Value isn't in the article itself, but in the perception of the subject. A premium tomato may be just a regular tomato to someone who doesn't know its history, its distinctive flavor, its growing method, but to someone who does, it's a gourmet experience that justifies a price several times higher. Fresh produce prestige is about creating products that, without being out of reach, offer something more. Story, a superior quality and emotional connection, products that let the consumer feel special without having to be a millionaire. For all these reasons, modern distribution is evolving towards these hybrid strategies. Because if every competitor competes on price alone, everyone are gonna be ending losing on margin and nobody gains on a sustainable advantage anymore. And if everyone competes on premium differentiation, the price-oriented consumers is left unserved. As I said, the emerging solution now it's a hybrid one. One some call the barbell strategy, the weightlifting bar, the dumbbell, weight at both ends and light in the middle. The most successful retailers are building bipolar portfolios. On one end, aggressively priced basic products to capture the price-conscious consumer, and carefully curated premium selection for the other end, for the passionate consumer. The big consultancies have spent years documenting this barbell dynamic, showing how the middle segment of the market experiences negative value creation while the luxury and value segments hold on to market share gains. To close our journey, a more anthropological perspective. Human beings have always sought to set themselves apart and at the same time to belong. It's a fundamental tension of our social nature. Bipolar consumption looks like a contemporary expression of that tension. We buy basic products in order to belong to the majority, be normal, rational, not wasteful, and we buy premium products in order to stand out, to express our individuality, our values, our membership to a selected tribe of connoisseurs. This is especially obvious when we buy premium products. Quality food in particular, which we often buy to share with a group or offer as gifts. We give those special strawberries to a loved one. We bring that special bottle of wine to a dinner. The premium product becomes a vehicle for social connection. And as a final reflection, we have to understand that this phenomenon stops us from seeing the consumer as an undifferentiated mass to whom we can sell standardized products. Because even in the basics, even when we strip them of their superficial attributes to make them cheaper, plenty of differences between one and another will still surface. The bipolarity of markets isn't an anomaly to be corrected. It's a new normal, and we have to adapt to. And for the fresh produce sector, this opens up both threats and opportunities. Although the middle market hasn't disappeared, the threat is clear. Getting trapped there in the middle is a recipe for irrelevance. The opportunities is just as clear. Never before have there been so many consumers willing to pay a premium for products that actually add value to their lives. But pinning down the right product definition and the right route to market is so difficult that it also carries a serious risk of failure. The questions and the answers are almost unique to each organization. What unique value can we bring? Are we able to compete at the cost extreme, or can we create products and experiences that justify a premium price? There are no easy answers, but I hope this episode has given you a few tools to think through the challenges we face. And that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I invite you to subscribe to Fresconomics on your favorite platform. You can find me on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and even on YouTube. And remember to share it with others. Help me connect with the community of professionals in the fresh produce industry. Although it may take a while, I promise to respond to any questions, contributions, or suggestions you may send to web@daviddelpino.com. And of course, you can also visit my blog at daviddelpino.com, where you'll find out how to get a copy of the book Fresconomics, along with articles and additional content. Until next time, take care and try to enjoy this crazy business.